look fun too.
Okay, at 6:02 on Tuesday, June 16, 2026, I will call to order the monthly meeting of the Village Board of Trustees of Sister Bay. Roll call.
All right, we're here. Baxi here.
Howson here?
Val here?
White here,
Kelly here.
Shampo here.
Okay. Can I get an approval of the agenda?
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion by Shampo,
Second.
second by White. All those in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, 3, approval of the meeting minutes from May 19th. I just will correct, Louise did not actually have me hidden somewhere. I was sick.
Why, does it say you're hidden?
Well, that's what you had told people, and indicated.
It's
you
not in
stuck.
the minutes.
So it's excused.
Say you were in an undisclosed.
Make a motion.
location.
Exactly.
Is that
I have
an
a
undisclosed
correction.
location?
Yes.
I have a correction.
I voted yes on the proclamation for the month of June.
But I had that printed.
No, my name is not included.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay, just so for the record, it's
Sorry.
changed.
I have a correction.
I have a
too.
correction.
That's you, it's the Kelly.
Yeah, exactly.
Go ahead.
Page, well, it goes on to page 4, line 2. Proposal as presented was made by Kelly and seconded by Kelly. God, that's a power there.
Superpower.
I have a correction on page 2, line 9. Skip's last name is spelled incorrectly.
I apologize.
Problem. And then I think we need Jill's last name, so that is on. Where are we?
Well, that was a correspondence.
Yeah, and
Jill.
it just says Jill, and I'll give you her last name. All I
Weedy.
need is- It's Weedy, W-I-E-D-E, and that is page. Here it is, that's page 2, line 16.
All right.
I think that's all I have.
Is there anything else? Okay, a motion to approve as amended being over.
So moved.
Motion by Housen,
Second.
second by White, to slow carrying. All those in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, comments, correspondence, and concerns from the public. Is there anyone out there in the public that would like to speak on a non-agenda item? Garrett, if you want to talk under your item.
I have a comment I'd like to talk to the board about. I have received a few complaints this past week about our village is basically being treated as a trash can. We had the Goat Festival, which I am in favor of, and I think it's great, except for beer cans, empty beer glasses, alcohol glasses littered up and down the sidewalk, up and down the streets. And a lot of the residents and summer residents as well feel that we are out of control. So as a board, I think we all should think about what can we do to improve this. Also, our Parks Department is picking all this trash up at our cost. And I don't think that's fair. So, going forward, I think we should explore some ideas on how we can curb this issue and make it better. Maybe we need to have, no open intoxicants on the sidewalks and on the streets. I don't know. But any ideas would be greatly appreciated, and I think we need to really seriously address this. The second issue I have is I've had neighbors come to me on numerous occasions asking if there can please be a place where they can dispose of their yard trash, their yard rubbish, branches, that kind of stuff. They feel that if we have enough money to spend on ice skating rinks and new administration buildings, there should be at least a place where they can go and take their yard clippings and such. So that has been said, and I can tell them I communicated that with you as the board, so that is it. Thank you.
No, I don't. Okay, go ahead.
Sure. This is just a point of information. The SBAA has a contract with the village. And in that contract, there are festivities or events where the village agrees to work with the SBAA on, either, it could be safety, it could be, in this case, it could be, refuse, or something like that. So it's built into the budget and built into, what the annual contract is with the SBAA. I did attend, I was there for about 2 hours. Nate, I think you were there as well. I didn't see it, but I wasn't there, you know, so, but, we line the street with trash barrels, not unlike Fall Fest, but similar. And then my other point of information is that request for refuse has come before Parks multiple times. And so I do think that, I just would like to second those residents that came to you, and one of them that has brought it to us a couple of times is Dick Burris. So maybe, you know, budget time is rolling around, it's not inexpensive. Certainly, I mean, Ephraim has a lot of experience with it. So I just wanted you to know that we have discussed it in the past, but it's sometimes a budget issue.
I would encourage any trustee that brings up an item under public correspondence, absolutely, you can do that, but also don't hesitate to remember that at number 10, when we have items be referred to a future committee or agenda.
Mhm.
So that's something that you have that the public doesn't necessarily always have immediately. Okay. All right. I don't think we had anybody out there, anybody online.
No.
Then let's go on to 5, presentation, the 2025 financial audit.
All right.
We do have CLA here who was here to provide the presentation for the 2025 audit. Feel free to take it away unless you need more introduction.
No, that's perfect. And I'm Elizabeth McMasters. I'm the director on the engagement, working on the village's audit in the background a few years now. And then I believe Amber Juritsky, that you're probably familiar with, I believe she's online and she might chime in at points. Yep, she's
Yeah.
there.
Hi, everybody.
Yes. So, I believe, does everybody have a copy of the audit electronically? Okay, perfect. So I'm gonna cover some of the financial metrics that we have interest to the village board, and just talk about the report as a whole. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to stop me, and Amber and I will do our best to answer any questions. If you think of something after this meeting, Vlad and Ben both have our contact information, and we're more than happy to have any kind of a follow-up conversation or answer further questions.
Could I make a quick request? When you're referencing something in the report, if
Sure,
you could give us a page number, it
yes,
would be very helpful.
certainly. Yep, and I'll be referring to, since I'm looking at the printed copy, it's gonna be the page number that's at the bottom of each one. I'm
Mhm.
assuming you're probably looking at a PDF page, so just keep that in mind.
Yep.
Page 1 is actually page 4 on the PDF.
Yeah,
You need to add 3 to the number sheets.
yes, there you go. Perfect.
Okay, because ours isn't numbered. Okay.
Oh, it
Mine
is.
isn't.
Sure, at the bottom of it.
I'm looking at the bottom.
Start on page 4.
Oh, I see. It is, past the table of contents.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
gotcha.
there you go. And I'm gonna refer to ones that are all numbered, so
Okay.
we shouldn't have that issue. Okay, perfect. So starting on page 1, actually, this is our opinion for the audit. It's the whole goal of our audit to provide this letter to the village board. We issued what's known as an unmodified opinion that is no different than what the village has been issued in the past, or otherwise known as a clean audit report. We use a risk-based approach whenever we're going about our audit procedures. We're gaining an understanding of the village's internal control structure. We're not giving an opinion on that internal control structure, but based on the knowledge that we learned from it, we apply the audit standards in order to come to this conclusion that we're able to give an unmodified opinion. So what that means is we're not going to necessarily look at every single little transaction. There could be smaller mistakes within here, but based on the risks or risk-based approach that we've taken, we're able to provide this opinion that the financial statements are materially correct. All right, so there isn't much that's changed with the audit opinions. I'll kind of skip over the verbiage this year, and I'm gonna skip into the financial statements. So the general fund and all the major funds on page 9. Give a second to flip to those. So I'll start with the general fund. Fund balance is always what we're looking at, from an audit perspective. That's shown towards the bottom of the page. You'll see the general fund ended, with just over $2 million in the unassigned fund balance. Just as a reminder, the village does have a policy in place, to keep 25 to 40% of the next year's budgeted expenditures in the unassigned fund balance. So if I apply that to what you had for a 2026 budget, the village is currently sitting at a 58%. So it's a little bit higher than what the policy states. However, one of the items that we take into consideration is, what's making up the revenues for the village. And if you look at Sister Bay specifically, there isn't a whole lot of state aids that you guys have at your disposal. Majority of the cash that you have coming in is largely relating to the property tax roll. And if you look at the timing of when the property tax roll is coming in versus other municipalities that are getting their state aids fairly consistently throughout the year, the village isn't getting those revenue streams consistently. So you have one pot of money that's coming in at property tax time, and that's kind of got to float you for the most part throughout the year. So by having a fund balance that's a little higher than what your policy is, that's going to allow you to have that cash flow to support your operations throughout the year. So we would encourage you to be probably a little bit on the higher side of that policy, and it would indicate that good financial health in that perspective. Debt service, not a whole lot to see there. You can see fund balance of 500,000 is going to be used for future debt service payments, so I'll kind of skip over that one. Capital projects fund, that ended the year, just shy of $6.9 million. So it's obviously healthy. That's largely dependent on what your, capital improvements plan has in place. I know that's something that the village works with Baird on what those capital needs are for the next number of years. It's just important to keep monitoring where is that fund balance at and what are those capital needs as you know more information. Moving into TID one fund over, I'm going to reference just the top of that page. There's cash and investments of a little over $2 million. One of the things to note with this year is that the TID was able to repay a portion of what was, quote unquote, borrowed to it from other funds coming from the general fund and the capital projects fund, which that means that the TID is finally generating enough tax increment to start to pay back some of those debts that TID owed. If we come down the page to fund balance for TID one, it's at 1.8 million. And one of the things that we're always monitoring with the TIDs is what are the total unreimbursed project costs that those TIDs have incurred throughout the life of the TID. So there's still about $6.1 million in unreimbursed project costs. So still a ways to go with that TID, but it's, like we said, starting to show that positive tax increment that some of those items are starting to be repaid. And then that unreimbursed project cost amount will start to come down over time.
I think that's a really important piece because a few years ago we weren't sure where that TID would end up, and we've been working with Baird from a debt perspective in terms of what you're putting on your levy and what you're able to pay back, and we've been able the last 2 years to make some additional payments back into the general fund for repayments from what they had previously expended, as Elizabeth mentioned. So that also goes into why your fund balance is a little bit higher there on the general fund as well. Is the last 2 years there's been payments that have come back from the TID. So it's still a ways to go in the 6.1 million, but really, really good progress. And you have years left on it to be able to generate some of that increment and pay that back. So extremely good news from that perspective. The cash that is stayed in there, that 2 million, that is kind of the outstanding debt that is still to be paid. We don't want to deplete that cash down because there is about 1.8 million remaining in outstanding debt related to the TID. So just some additional information there. Thanks, Elizabeth.
The utility funds are, the statement that I'm gonna focus on is on page 17. So this shows the results of water, treatment, collection, marina funds. I'm gonna go towards the bottom of the page. It has the change in net position. So this is essentially your operating results through the year. You can see that each of the funds carried a positive change in net position for this year. Water, 184,000, treatment, 326,000, 143,000 for wastewater, and then Marino with 190,000. And I'll kind of show how this all comes together here, so bear with me. And then at the very bottom of the page, it has your end of year net position. So you can see 6.7 million for water, 4.5 million. And as we carry that total, you've got about 18 million across each of your enterprise funds. Just to give you a little bit of context, because those can feel like really big numbers. You feel like, oh, we're, doing really well. But we do a calculation called your net investment in capital assets. So what amount have you invested in the infrastructure that's in the ground for your utilities and so on, and the assets that you've put in place for the marina and so on, the improvements that you've done for the village. So that amount, so of the 18.2 million, 10.5 million has been invested in those infrastructure assets. So it's not a pot of money or anything like that, available to be spent or anything. The village has made substantial investments in that capital. And then above and beyond that 10.5 million, there's 2.5 million that's in an account restricted for plant replacement. So a significant portion of what's in your net position for these funds is tied up in those areas. Right. So those are, oh yes, go ahead.
Just a quick question.
Mhm.
When you say of that 8 million, the 10 million is already invested into those assets,
Mhm.
can you clarify what you mean by that?
Yeah, so that's when you guys are spending money to it's in your the pipes that you're purchasing and so on. So that's the investment that of your revenues and expenses over the years, and you're setting aside money to pay for it. You've been putting those assets in the ground. So it doesn't mean that
So
there's
it's like
cash in
part of the asset.
correct.
It's not sitting there waiting.
to be spent or
Okay.
anything. No, that's actually what's in the ground and so
Okay.
on. Yeah.
Thanks.
And it's
Yeah.
net of any debt associated with that as well. So,
So that's what the village actually owns. Because you're gonna take out debt to likely do all of those projects. You back off that debt because you don't really own it at that point.
Sure.
This is what you truly own.
Have
is
like
that
paid for outright.
paid for, it is yours to be eventually replaced again, right? Yeah, of course. So those are the major funds that we show in the front statements, and just in case you're reviewing this audit report at a later time, a couple of page numbers just to be aware of. There is further budget to actual schedules. There's a high level one on page 15, and then there's much more detailed ones on pages 67 and 68. So we won't go into details on those. I feel like those are some of it should look very familiar to what you're getting from at the board meetings on a monthly basis. This will just be as of year end and once audit entries are applied and so on.
What was the first page number you gave us? Sorry.
Yep, so there's a high level summary one
Yep.
on page 15.
Okay.
And then detailed on 67 and 68.
Okay, thank you.
Of course. All right, then some years we'll we get into some of the note disclosures and so on. The debt for the village, what the capital asset investments have been and so on. This year it's all very status quo in terms of those note disclosures. Sometimes there are different standards that require changes to the notes. So there's not a whole lot going in there that we've already discussed what the end results kind of are with these funds. So I'm going to skip over these note disclosures, but if anybody is reading anything and they ever have a question, please let us know because we're more than happy to discuss those in much more detail if needed. So I'm going to skip ahead to page 77. I mentioned this earlier, we issue what's known as a yellow book report. And so I said we gain an understanding of the village's internal control structure, and that's a way that we develop our risk analysis when we're performing our audit. If we were to come across anything that we should bring to your attention, this is another way that we have the ability to do so, and that's in the result of findings each year. So those findings are starting on page 79. So I'll start by saying that the findings are very normal for a municipality. We have these same findings in the large majority of the audits that we perform each year. And so I'll just kind of cover a little bit about what each of those mean. So the first one is in preparation of the annual report. I would say we issue this in probably 90 to even 95% of the audits. We do this as a service to the village. It just doesn't make sense to spend the money to train somebody to be able to provide this report cover to cover with all of the disclosures and keeping up with the standards. So, like I said, very normal. And then on the next page, on page 80, there's a finding for adjustments to the village's financial records. And what this means is that when we're there for the audit, we're really looking at where year end falls, are the accounting standards being followed, and making sure that things have proper cutoff. And as a result, we have entries that we propose as part of the audit that were material to the financial statements. So that's what that finding is relating to, really those year-end adjustments. It's not meaning that, you know, we're here correcting all the receipting and all the disbursements and the payroll and so on. That stuff is being recorded correctly throughout the year. It's just year-end adjustments that we're really focusing on when that finding is put in place. And like I said, again, that's very normal. We do that because it just, there's a lot going on, and, you know, to get training in place, I think that that's one thing that speaks to Vlad's abilities is taking on each of those entries year over year. He definitely tries to learn where are they coming from, why are they being made, and eventually we might get to a point that we don't have to have that finding for that reason. And it's just takes time to really understand and making sure that things are in the right spot at year end. So. And I'll just close in saying that thank you to everybody at the village. It's not easy to go through an audit. There are hundreds of requests that we're making and questions that they're answering. If Vlad can't get us an answer, he is going to somebody else, and they're definitely doing digging and contracts and everything. They're not easy questions, so we greatly appreciate their time and efforts. Same thing with Ben. We definitely appreciate everything that they do for us. As I said, it's not easy to go through an audit. We appreciate working with everyone. So any other questions or thoughts that we can touch on?
2 questions.
Sure.
What year over year, we're gonna have that repeat finding for moving forward because we don't have somebody in staff. Like, that is something that's never going to change.
Correct.
So we're going to see that repeat finding, and I say that hoping that some of these board members will be here for a couple of years to go through this again. And then, but the other one, the audit adjustments, it is possible that at some point in the future, we might be able to.
Possibly.
Okay.
Possibly. And I like to say possibly because even the most experienced ones with CPAs on staff and so on, even those reports end up with that adjustments finding. A lot of times it can be triggered because a new standard is put into place. And it causes us to look at something differently, and then you kind of dig up something that you didn't really realize was going on in the background, or, you know, something like that. So even for the best of the best, it happens occasionally, regardless of the amount of training and so on. So I think we can work towards having years when it isn't there anymore, but it may resurface at times, and it's not meant to be, you know, a knock on the hand or anything like that. It's really not going to change anything. It's just making you aware that, you know, this happened and we did have to make adjustments to the financial statements in order to issue our opinion.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Vlad, is there anything you want to add?
No, I've already asked all of my questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He does a great job asking questions.
I think the one thing that Vlad, the village has always done, but I think Vlad coming in new, just want to give a appreciation to that is reaching out often when there's questions and unique situations that come up. That really kind of alleviates some of the questions on that finding that you reference about how we can get rid of, maybe get rid of that for a period of time, or maybe not have it again. Is being able to communicate frequently and throughout the year and early and often is extremely important, because that also helps the board have more accurate information every month for your decision making, which is extremely important. So we appreciate that.
Thank you. Well, thanks to CLA, and also thank you to Vlad and the entire office staff. So do we need to
Yeah,
adopt
thank
this?
you.
No, this is just presentation.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So once, now that it's been presented, do we at some point adopt it?
It has not been in the past, but we certainly can when we have the finished version. Since we've gone through and we've given the presentation.
Uh-huh.
Like I said, historically, it hasn't been approved. Some communities do that, but it's not 100% necessary.
Is it best practice to do that?
There isn't necessarily a huge benefit in doing so.
Is it appropriate, though, just to have a motion to receive it, because that acknowledges that the board has interacted with it and it's part of the record?
It hasn't been in past years, but we certainly can.
I think that once we get the final, that makes sense.
Because we're gonna use the final in the budget process, correct?
Yeah,
So to me,
I think that's a good point, Skip.
there needs to be
We don't necessarily need to adopt it, but we can accept it.
Yeah, it's acknowledging receipt of it so that it's part of the permanent record.
well, that's
You
the
should,
When the
Oh,
final
sorry.
vote, it's not draft.
Yeah, Amber.
Ben and Vlad, you should have the final copy. I sent that Friday afternoon. So let me know if you don't have that copy yet. But the only thing that should have changed is a signature on the report.
Well,
So we would need that, yeah.
yeah, I would want that before we acknowledge it, to actually have the final that doesn't have draft all over it.
We did receive them today.
Okay, but I mean, like, I'd like us to see, for us to acknowledge receipt of it, we have to receive it.
So that'll be July.
It shouldn't take much, I mean,
That's fine, they don't. Should I see? Or
I think we all need to,
yeah,
it probably needs to, you want to agenda it then for July?
yeah, we can agenda it to accept it. I mean, I understand, Vlad, that it's the same thing here, but at the same point, I don't want to have it like, hey, here it is, right in the meeting, and.
Yeah.
And I understand that there's no significant changes from there, but I'd like to have a copy that doesn't say draft on it. I don't know that it needs much conversation in July, but.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Motion to accept them in July.
All right. On to 6A, approving the 2025 ECM AR. All right, I'm guessing Megan is on there?
Yes. Megan, if you wouldn't mind providing a brief overview for the resolution.
Yep, of course. Wrote a staff report just with a brief overview. Every year we have to get this adopted with a resolution. It's the compliance maintenance annual report for the wastewater treatment plant and the sanitary sewer collection system. So it just details the various operating levels and ensuring that those maintenance activities are occurring on both sides of those systems. So we scored high, no issues in the report this year. So we do recommend that this goes forward with approval.
Okay. Megan, is it fair to say that not everybody always ends up with a 4.0 on this?
Yes, it is fair to say that not everybody gets a 4.0. The grade point average varies based on the answers that are inputted into the switchboard. There's a certain number of points that get deducted for certain things. Other facilities do get different grade point averages.
I guess what I'm saying is that this is a good reflection on you. That's what I was getting at, Megan.
Yes, this is a good
Doing
reflection.
your job well, but that's
Yep.
what this consistently is here, so.
Yeah,
Yes.
nice job, as usual.
Good job,
Yeah, thank you.
Megan, and all your staff that you lead.
Yes, thank you.
So do we
Make a motion that we accept.
accept?
Okay, motion by Kelly,
Second.
second by Heidler. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Thank you, Megan.
Thank you.
Okay, on to 7A. License review, cigarette, electronic vaping devices, and tobacco licenses. Okay, Julie?
Yes, so, for you, you have a report of the applicants for the tobacco, cigarette, and vaping. There's 5 businesses within the village, and I need a motion to, accept, awarding them a renewal.
Okay,
Individually, the,
Nope, you can do it all.
like by category, I mean?
Yep.
And
This
we
is for
don't-
tobacco only right now.
I assume, remember last year they were all in the packet, like, we don't need to see them.
Yeah,
Like,
you know,
just do that, right? Okay,
yes.
so I guess that's actually something I mentioned to Julie today
Yeah.
is we're trusting that Julie's doing her job and doing it well. That's not something that we need to go through every single one. That's really the clerk's role, and we appreciate Julie doing it.
I'll make a motion that we accept the 5 as listed.
Motion by Kelly,
But I
Second?
have a question.
second by Housen. You got a
I had a question for,
Yes.
just in general, have there ever been, for these 5 folks, has there been any issues, complaints? You know, like underage, so,
I have never seen anything in their file,
Okay.
when I pull it, so.
So they don't have delinquent village taxes, utilities, permits, or anything like that. That's already something you've already
Yes.
checked.
I was more concerned about underage selling.
Yeah, I mean, that is certainly applicable, but I think like with the part that we're really gonna see on the village. Okay,
Okay, so then on to the.
hold on, I gotta.
He didn't get a second. I'll second.
Oh, I
No,
thought you were-
yeah.
Okay.
Motion by Kelly, second by House, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Okay,
Okay, on to the alcohol licenses, first. So on the bottom, there is the recommendation to, wait for One Star Burger Bar or burger and hot dogs. What this is they have an outstanding sign violation that's been ongoing since July of 2025. And we were thinking this would be a way to get them to take down an existing sign that does not conform. However, we really looked into the ordinance that we have concerning it. And it says that no license shall be granted for any premise for which taxes, assessments, or other claims of the village are delinquent and unpaid, or to any person delinquent in payment of such claims to the village. So right now, how we have it written is very much if you have a fine that's unpaid or something monetary value, then we have the right to withhold. However, I asked Carla, our code compliance officer, and she says as of now, we do not have any fines or tickets issued to One Star. Could be something that in the future we want to look at if there's something in non-compliance, rewriting the ordinances to be able to leverage bringing them into compliance for alcohol, maybe even permits, things like that. But right now, we really need to move One Star Burger out of the renewal based on resolving the issue. They need to be put in with all the other
The other class A,
class B
Class-
beer.
Class B beer.
Class B, sorry.
Wine.
Mhm.
So have they been issued, fines because of the non-compliance?
Carla said
signage?
she has not issued any tickets. I believe that their new sign is on the agenda for this month's plan commission.
Okay,
So we're kind of hoping that once they get the new sign in, they'll take the old sign down.
This is part of a larger compliance issue that was issued in 2025 that we're hoping to get resolved. And then also as part of that, we had Travis stop into the office and yeah, apparently there is in neighboring communities, some ordinances where it's an indebtedness ordinance, where essentially it encapsulate, anything in which a community, anything in which a applicant is indebted would then require them to be withheld any license. So indebtedness could fit in for any compliance related issues.
So this is a practice they put in place in Gibraltar?
Yes,
I'm assuming you mean you're Travis.
yes.
Thank you.
Yes, so he stopped in, we were discussing this issue
Okay.
and there is example
That's
ordinances,
up to plan, I guess.
so.
Right,
Yeah, that's a plan. Okay.
but for now, if we could just bring the one star into the other group of class,
When I get to class B, okay, B.
So if we could, what I did was I put them all together according to class, so if we could have a motion for each combination class, that would be great.
So it'd be 9 and B now.
Yes,
I can wait till discussion if you want, but I have a similar question that Terry did on the vaping cigarette. Have there been any known issues with any of these licensees?
no,
So we're just doing the combination A, or we,
yes, please.
sorry,
Okay, so that was a motion by Kelly.
Yes.
Okay, motion by Kelly,
Second.
second by White. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay. So what's? the
now we're
next?
combination B.
Combination class B license.
Okay,
I would make a motion to approve the listed businesses.
okay, that's a motion by White,
Second,
second by Shampoo. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Renewal of class B beer license, class C wine license.
And that's the one that would include one star?
I'm sorry. I'm trying to, notes again. Yes,
So that was a motion by White, all second by Bell. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Let's keep on it. I'll make a motion to approve the class B beer license to Ecology Sports.
Motion by
Second.
White, second by House, and all those in favor?
I
Opposed? Carried.
will also make a motion to approve the renewal of the class C wine license for Blush Salon.
Second.
Motion by White, second by Kelly. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Is that all of them?
yes, it is for the alcohol. Then what you have before you is the operator's licenses request, also known as bartender's licensing. So we do have 1 and 2 year operator licenses. The majority choose to apply for the 2 year.
I have a question. Has
Yes.
this ability, I think that the state can now issue these two? Have we seen that impact operators?
I guess I don't have the institutional knowledge background to see that. I don't know.
Okay, well, I mean, it was something that changed last year, which was kind of strange, because I know that there was other municipalities that were a little bit more worried about it. It's not much of a difference to us, but I don't think it has based on the number of licensees. Okay, well, I'll make a motion. We approve the operators list.
I have a question, because Jess Grassy is on here for various,
Yes,
and so does it have to be somebody specific, or, I mean, she could be volunteering someplace or something like
right.
that?
So what happens is for the bartender's licenses, this is for if they bartender serve alcohol within the village of Sister Bay.
Yeah.
It doesn't really have to be attached to a business
Mhm.
per se.
Okay,
So she came in and she's like, I know I'm going to be working events.
sure.
So that's why she's renewing.
You want a second?
Second.
Motion by Bell, second by Maxey. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Julie.
Thank you. All right. Now on to the operational agreement for training facility. Okay, see Mike is here. Technology.
Yes.
Lead in with us.
I can tee it off and then if there is any questions or if Mike, if you would like to say anything, feel free to join in here. But essentially, the fire department approached the village regarding the old concession stand, which is to the right of the fire station here. Essentially, it's been sitting vacant, and that they're proposing to use it for a training facility. Essentially, what is happening is that there's limited training opportunities within the area. The closest opportunities are within Sturgeon Bay and the Green Bay area. And essentially, it would provide the fire department with the opportunity to train nearby and to be accustomed with, fire-related incidents that might occur. So before they provided an investment into the actual structure itself, they wanted to confirm that the village was okay with them using the facility and making substantial modifications. So as part of this agreement, it essentially would provide the fire department with the opportunity to use the facility and to make the improvements with the safety that it's not going to necessarily be used for a different purpose in the future. So really, we're just solidifying the purpose that would be utilized for the training facility. And I did have this reviewed by legal counsel, and then I've also been in coordination with the fire department regarding this agreement as well. So is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I certainly appreciate the work that you've done with us, Ben. You've been a great help. So to clarify further, we have been using that building. It's been a part storage building. And also we've been using it for ladder training for a long time. The roof is well shaped for us to conduct roof ladder operations, standard ladder operations. What we're really looking to do is on our last fundraising letter, we kind of put forward that we want to be able to put some money into that building to allow us to modify it so we could put in training windows, training doors, that we could do forcible entry windows, convert the upstairs so we can actually do, it's like simple house training techniques. I mean, unfortunately, the closest training facility that we can use is the Green Bay. So this, the fire station was built with a host tower that we could use, but there's no large residential style area in that. This would provide us with a more residential style building. We are looking at putting between $50,000 and about $75,000 into it to put in training aids. And all that money was coming from donations to the fire department from our annual fundraising letter. What we wanted to do was, we didn't want to go through and put all the time and effort and volunteerism into converting the building and then for the village to take it from under us and say, no, you can't use it for that purpose. But to be frank, this is an excellent opportunity for us to be able to train locally, work with neighboring departments as well. We have some commitments from some carpenters and other skilled people from neighboring departments to assist, and in return, we would let them use the building for their purposes as well. But yeah, this is a good step forward. It's taken a little get here, a little longer than I hoped, because the summer is really the only time that we can do a lot of work building in there. But yeah, I appreciate your commitment to helping us with this.
So you're taking care of the maintenance, you're taking care of the insurance, we're just saying you're gonna be able to.
Well, the building insurance is actually by you guys, because you insure this building, you insure all the appurtenances to it. But the operation, firefighter and workers' comp come from us.
Yeah. Okay. And this is gonna save something like, they're talking about a typical training day going down to Green Bay for that,
Well,
you're looking at.
Nobody's giving
Yeah.
up time, we do it through basic training, firefighting certification program. But to be honest with you, most of the people now in the department, when we go to training, if we start traveling anywhere else, we're traveling 2 hours in and just travel time to get somewhere. And then you're leaving the area with nobody here to protect it. So honestly, for us to be able to have a local training facility is a huge deal for us. And again, it's not going to be a massive eyesore or anything like that from the exterior. It'll look very much unchanged. There will be probably, maybe even better, there'll probably be some paint added to it. But there might be a couple of windows that we can put training and entry windows into. There's some specialized props that we looked at, just for that type of building that can be integrated.
And it's gonna basically be in the same location?
It is the same building. I mean, again,
No, but I mean, it's gonna stay where it's at.
we're not moving the building at all. No, listen, all we're gonna do is, as I said, upkeep the building a little bit. It's been in a bit of disrepair. but we're gonna just add some access points to it and change the interior of it.
Great idea.
Yeah,
How did the building end up back there as a concession stand?
Well,
This used
so,
to be a baseball field.
yeah, before this
Oh,
building was built,
okay.
yeah.
This was,
So
this
it's
was
just-
there as a concession stand for a baseball field, we're sitting on the baseball field.
But Patrice, I know I can remember, and I'm sure you can remember, Patrice, when this was the ice rink and the ball field.
Yeah.
So that was actually used as a concession stand. So, okay,
we need a motion to approve.
yes, we do.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, motion by Kelly,
Second.
second by Maxie, all those in favor?
I,
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Mike.
Appreciate it, thank you for your assistance.
Thanks, Mike.
I think it was snowing when we talked about that
It
last.
was.
Okay. The 7D, the employee handbook revision.
All right, so this is coming out of personnel for a recommendation for employee handbook revisions regarding on-call obligations, regarding PTO, emergency response expectations, and then including a standardized disciplinary documentation form. So essentially, there was some concerns regarding some response for emergency response when an employee was on PTO. These were brought up and forwarded over as a policy item over to the personnel committee. Essentially, as part of it, it was determined from the personnel committee to further look into this and to define language about on-call and emergency expectations for employee while they're on leave. So we ended up moving forward and drafting policy over April and May. And that the version of the policy that is presented here was provided as a recommendation from the personnel committee. So with that, it certainly is open to any discussion regarding what is included as part of the packet. I've only included the excerpts of what will be changed, that's included within red. But otherwise, the full employee handbook, including the revisions, proposed revisions, is included as a hyperlink as well. And then what is being requested is that essentially the approving the proposed employee handbook unless there was anything else for touching any of the employee handbook revisions. Just wanted to make a note that the employee handbook is also being reevaluated from the personnel committee in August as well.
This started because of was it an open session in a personnel committee meeting? There was some discussion on this, is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yes.
Okay, I want to be mindful of what I'm bringing up to make sure it's an open session when it was discussed,
Yep.
to make sure I'm not saying something that was inappropriate there. As I was, I've always been uncomfortable saying that all employees are on call all the time. I understand why we do it, but I don't think it's good. I'm just fundamentally uncomfortable with that. And that's what it says and has said in our employee handbook for a long time. I don't know how anybody else feels about that, but I think what happened is somebody was called to come on call when they were on PTO on a weekend. To me, PTO on a weekend, there's no difference. If you're not scheduled to work, you're not scheduled to be on call. There's no difference between having PTO on a weekend or just having a weekend. And I don't like that blurriness. What had happened is somebody was called in, they did not come in, there was some discussion because of that.
They're on vacation, it wasn't the weekend.
Yeah, so basically they
Okay.
were on a family trip, they had their work stuff done
It was not the weekend at all.
Turned off,
Completely different.
right.
They were on vacation.
because they were not on call also.
Right.
Somebody else was on call. And you can technically call in everybody in an emergency, but there was a little discrepancy on what counts as an emergency. So I agree, if you're on family vacation, especially like if you're, I don't know where anybody was, but what if we fly to Florida and we're on spring break for the week? Certainly that person cannot be available. You know what I mean? So that's the clarification in here is if you have paid time off, unless it's a true natural disaster emergency, you're not being called back in.
So it was vacation, it wasn't weekend, and we felt
Okay.
it was important to clarify
That's
for supervisors as well as their team members. You know, what the protocol would be, for lack of a better word, and also be a little bit more detailed on the definitions. Define emergency and so forth, so
So
that's why that's in here.
are there separate classes of expectation for primary on-call employees and on down a line? I mean, it seems to me like that's where this, in the handbook, we need to start, because if you've got an expectation that, if something comes up, it's not an emergency, but it needs dealt with, that you've got at least a person that can be responsible for handling it.
So there is an on-call rotation.
Right, there
That's
is.
associated with it. This is more so referencing what it is for the case of, an emergency. So it further clarifies when it's needed. That's just, the most common emergency would be for a snow emergency. Is that essentially if an employee was called in, they're on PTO, it's the expectation that even if they're utilizing PTO and they're still accessible, that, they would not.
So it's about defining emergencies, it's not about scheduling of who would be responding.
Right, yes, so there is an on-call rotation.
Which is actually normal. You know, particularly when you're no matter what the size of the team is, things come up, right? Somebody gets sick, and when you run an operation that ostensibly, depending on what's happening, it runs 24 hours a day. You know, emergencies don't care, they get a call, something's happened, a tree's down, whatever the heck it is, So we may not take care of it, maybe the sheriff does, or maybe somebody else does, but that's really what that's there for. And last winter was nutty, but anyway, I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
Did you say? I mean, I might have misunderstood. If you're on PTO, but there's an emergency. You would expect to be.
No,
No.
I didn't think so.
no, this is defined, this
Clarify
clarify
that
that
issue.
if you're on PTO, which we would define as vacation. Paid time off, vacation. A weekend off is not PTO. PTO is a
Standard weekend,
vacation.
yeah.
I disagree with that. If you're not scheduled, you're not scheduled. Whether it's because you got a PTO or it's a weekend, you're not scheduled. There's no.
So you're
expectation
pointing
there.
on the weekend, you could be down in.
Yeah, you could be in Madison, you could be anywhere. How I would look at it, because we do need to have some way to address this.
Well, I have a
Incentive-
question, let's say that
Can I
you're,
finish?
sure.
Okay, so what I would say is instead of saying like, you have to be on call. Let's incentivize, let's say, if you respond and it is an emergency. We will give you twice what the stipend was for being on call. That way, the village is incentivized to say, gosh, is this really an emergency? And if it is, it's gonna cost some money, but this is not gonna be an appreciable amount to the village over the course of the year. And I think it's gonna be a lot more fair to staff.
I don't think it's that complicated. How far in advance do they know that they're on call?
The rotation is monthly, so.
Okay, so the beginning of the month, everybody knows when they're on call.
Mhm.
Right? So ostensibly, if you want to be away for the weekend, then you're on call. What do they do?
So I mean, if you're on call, so you're made available, you're accessible.
You're accessible, right?
Did it
Can
say
you
that you could
switch?
find somebody else?
Can you switch?
I mean, that would be per the discretion of the manager, but somebody would need to be on call.
Right, somebody has to.
They've
switch.
done that.
Right, so that's why I think we're making it doing that is far more complicated, I think, I don't see the need, in my opinion, see the need for it, if, we have a team of adult professionals that know 1 month in advance when they're gonna be on call.
So, and so then we would drop the emergency, because that's what I'm hearing you say, because that's the part that I'm hitting at, is the emergency recall portion of it. I mean, like you have to come here now, or we want you to come here now, instead of saying, the statement saying employees are always on call, it sits extremely
We
poorly.
can reword it if you want, but we have an on-call list. We need to properly manage the business. Eric, are you there?
I don't think he is.
He's off now. sorry for those, and Eric is our,
Yeah.
our manager. I don't know how you manage a team like this in a village like this, in the Parks Department and so forth, without an on-call, when, 'cause again, on-call's there for when you get a, you can call it an emergency or something comes up and you're like, I need an extra person, you know? Not, because Eric is always gonna be the guy, but he might need an extra person. So that's why it's there. I think, am I
Well,
wrong?
yeah, so I mean, yes, it is there as part of it. It's just also the, so I guess the policy gap here was is that technically is that if an employee is not on paid time off, they're
Yep.
on call, and that ultimately it would be, if they have the ability to respond, it would be right to do so. But if they're on paid time off and that they're asked to respond, that it would not be penalized for not responding in that case. So essentially, we're addressing the specific policy gap.
Well,
Well,
but
hold
we're
on,
also
hold-
telling the
so,
supervisor
Louise,
that
Bridget-
if they're on vacation, they're not on call. That's what we attempted anyway, if you're not under, if you don't, if it's not worded correctly.
I would say, isn't the scheduling of PTO something that's done with the supervisors so that there's not gonna be a spot where 3/4 of my apartment is gone at one point? I mean, isn't it?
Right,
Yeah.
and also, they're, this is also for the supervisor. The supervisor would now know that they don't make a call to somebody that's on vacation. This was an exceptional thing. We got 36 inches of snow. Nonetheless, this individual was on vacation, and with this policy, he would not get a call. He was
Okay,
on
With
vacation.
the old policy.
The old
hold on,
policy.
guys, hold on. Bridget is very
I'm gonna-
patiently waited
I'm
here.
gonna clarify some things that have been said. A, it says all employees are on call, that is when an emergency requires it. And then we went down and we redefined what emergency was, because that wasn't in here.
Right.
So very specifically, an emergency is an event that presents an immediate threat to public health, safety, critical infrastructure, or essential municipal operations. So that would be, that really narrows what emergency could have covered before, like 3 feet of snow and the wastewater treatment plant you can't get to the auto flow, whatever the thing is. You can call everybody for that, for the emergency. If you're on paid time off and you're out of town, you can't get back in a safe manner, that's covered. You don't come back and you don't get in trouble for that. If you're nearby and you choose, it's an emergency. There's a declaration of emergency. Hey, are you nearby? Can you come help us? We need all hands on deck. They're probably gonna come in. This just makes it so if they fly somewhere on vacation or they're truly not available, or they turn their phone off because they need some time with their family, they will not be penalized for not showing up. So there's a rotation of people who are on call. Those are the first people that will get called for everything else. This only is talking about in emergency situations, everybody gets a call. But if you've got paid time off, it's been approved, you won't get in trouble if you can't make it.
And your supervisor, who's the one that would be calling you for, on call, is the one that approved your paid time off.
Right,
You're
so he
well
knows
aware
you're
of when
probably not
you're
available.
off.
He may
Right.
call you anyways, but you won't get in trouble for it, which is kind of where the sticky situation was. Somebody felt like they were getting in trouble because they physically couldn't get back there and they were having family time. It didn't even occur to them that they should have been available because they shouldn't have to be available. If you have paid time off, you're on vacation, you shouldn't have to be available. I think that was the point we were trying to make with this.
I guess the one thing I'd say that would make me okay with this, I still fundamentally, and I hear what you're saying, Bridget, but I still don't like the just saying that everybody's always on call. Just that those words together are not something I'm comfortable with. But if we actually had it be a actual declaration of emergency, which has happened once in the last 3 years, then it's kind of a moot point.
You could reword that first sentence up at the top too, that says. During an emergency, all employees are on call, instead of just starting it out with all employees on call.
Or during a declared emergency.
we're expecting all hands on deck. There's a better way to say it.
Well, but
Well, what- I
emergency
think- I think if
wastewater treatment plant is different than a.
Well,
we would not-
this is not really touching
we
the
wouldn't-
wastewater treatment.
But it could, just to say,
It's employees.
and the village wouldn't, and the village in that case may not declare a state of emergency.
Yeah, I think that
So
that
I
threshold
don't
is pretty
think that we
high.
should necessarily say that that's what has to happen.
I think
What
you're
about
really,
COVID? Was
you're-
COVID a state of emergency? Did we declare a state of
Yes,
emergency?
we did. We kept
Correct.
declaring a
So
state of
what if
emergency
something like
every
that
month
were
because I
to-
wouldn't let us do a long-term declaration.
I
Thank you
think
for
you're
the history,
really relying on the, sorry, excuse me, you're really relying on the manager to have a good sense of what constitutes an emergency and what doesn't.
Which is
And
why
I
we
think,
clarified it for.
right, so, I think Ben and Eric will have a conversation and they'll really sift through what an emergency is. And I think we're kind of relying on the employees that we've hired to
Yep.
keep a level head during that time.
As well as any of the other managers as well, just
Right,
because, I think it's just important, to make sure that just as a policy item that, this really applies to anyone that would be on call. And that if this policy was passed for the employee handbook, essentially we'd be distributing this item and having individual conversations, with managers about the implementation of it. So.
Okay. Would anybody like to, we need to adopt these handbook revisions?
Yeah, I think so. We need
Yeah.
we need a vote.
And we'd like to make a motion.
I will make a
I'm on the committee, but
motion
yeah, okay.
to adopt the
Motion.
new handbook revisions.
Okay, motion by White,
Second.
second by Champeau. All those in favor?
I
Opposed? Nay?
I think they,
Okay. On to 7E, bylaws, committee and trustee bylaws. So looking at when I made the appointments for committees, I said my intention was to change some committee makeup. And that's what we're talking about here tonight, just the committee makeup portion of it. So that is. We've got one of the member of Parks, Properties and Streets becoming a stakeholder. Actually, I'm sorry, Ben, did you have that as?
So I have a question because related to works, it's listed one way in one spot and a different way in another spot. Whether it's residents or stakeholders.
So my inclination is always to be stakeholders. Because this board has to approve everybody that gets approved here. And when we have something that says residents, we end up something where we lose Fuzzy Sunstrom off of the Marina Committee. And that's the example I'll always go back to because I think Fuzzy was great on the Marina Committee, but because of how the bylaws were written. Now, that doesn't mean that if you really think that should be a resident and somebody comes up here and they, well, there's a stakeholder, I don't think they should be here. You could vote against them. And that would be, I would say that's up to the individual.
So what I'm asking
Is
is
it
back on
resident or stakeholder?
52,
It's written two different ways.
on page 52, it's written one way, and on page 56, it's written a different way for parks and property. That's what I was questioning.
So is it
Gotcha.
resident or stakeholder?
I think that was an existing line here, so there could be a determination on the, let me just get this correct here, on the committee commission bylaws. It was
What page are you on?
listed, so I'm just, committee bylaws, I'm just taking a peek here at the page and we're let's see, for parks.
My intention was it to be stakeholders, Skip.
So on page 56, which is in the bylaws section for parks and property, it crosses 3 trustees to 2, but it says 3 residents. And you're talking stakeholders.
Stakeholders, yes.
That's what.
So we just have that as amended, yeah.
So that's incorrect. It should be stakeholders.
That's what yes,
Nate,
yes.
I have a question. I don't understand why we would not have 3 trustees on parks and sewer and water. We are all have been elected by the residents of Sister Bay and they have entrusted us to do the right thing for the community. I think it's important that the trustees fill these seats.
So if you look at what happened with finance in the last year, there was a
Yeah.
lot of conversation about that. When you bring a citizen, a stakeholder member, you have another perspective that is brought in there. You also have another person that is able to articulate what that committee is doing. You bring more sunshine onto that, because there's times where I'm sure you've heard people say, well, you guys are doing that and it's not very transparent. Well, there's a lot of very specific rules we have to follow that are supposed to make it very transparent. One of the ways that I have found and talked to other elected officials, other places, to bring that additional visibility is to get citizens involved. And I think that finance has gone pretty well. We've got a lot more folks that are out there talking to other people about what's happening.
That makes sense to me for the finance committee, because you need experts in finance to be on that committee. But like for parks, property and streets, I think the trustees should fill those seats. Maybe sewer and water would be an exception as well. Maybe someone would be more of an expert in that area than a trustee would be. But it's my personal opinion that trustees can fill the posts for 3 seats.
And I've also talked to a lot of other folks that look at our committee structure and they say, wow, you've got a lot of committees that are just trustees. And a lot of other places, when they have these committees, you've got 1 or 2 committee members. I'm not saying you don't have a point, Patrice. I'm just saying, this is what my viewpoint is that you have 1 or 2 people from the board on that committee that act as a liaison. And you get the input from the public on that. The one on here, I think that I'm pushing that I'm the least comfortable with would be personnel. And I'd say personnel would come down to the right people. If it's not the right person, if there's not somebody that's a subject matter expert, you let that role sit empty, in my opinion. But I think that I know that there's a number of folks in the community, whether they want to serve or not, that are very capable and have extensive knowledge in HR and related fields.
Which would be great. That'd be great.
Well,
But
just sticking with one committee at a time. In terms of parks, so stakeholders might not pay taxes.
Right.
and that's something that is absolutely relevant for the board to discuss when that person comes up, but do you really want to keep fuzzy something out?
Well, they may not pay taxes, and parks has the largest budget in the village. Parks spends the most money,
The
but
village,
you have a stakeholder that may not be affected by, whatever. Well, for instance, what building we're building, whatever we might be doing, because it's a big budget.
and that's a very important thing to look at when that person is brought up for parks. It's a very fair question, but there's a lot of stakeholders that do pay taxes. And a
What's wrong
substantial
with
amount of
having
taxes.
a resident?
Or a blend, have
Why-
stakeholders and residents.
Well,
Why,
stakeholders can be residents.
yes, it absolutely can
They
be.
can be this.
But not defined here in the definitions that we have
Well, the
on page
stakeholders,
57 and 58.
stakeholder is a person with a vested interest.
Vested interest in the outcome of a specific village property. I'm just
Well,
what
we
that
don't
means.
think they have a.
But-
no
What
vested
if
interest.
we are saying, for instance, on parks and property, 2 trustees and 2 residents or stakeholders?
We wanted, I would say they can be stakeholder, a resident is a stakeholder.
Yeah, I have no problem with that.
But a
It should
stakeholder
just
is not
be-
necessarily a resident.
They aren't, they don't pay taxes.
To eliminate residents and just say stakeholders,
They don't pay
You're
taxes.
not
doesn't make-
They don't
eliminating
care.
residents though,
Not-
they're
let's make it
included.
clear.
in
Yeah, but they don't
stakeholder.
care. I mean, fine, build a $4 million,
Exactly.
admin building.
I don't wanna.
I'm not paying
Well,
for
no, the
it.
stakeholders could be non-resident taxpayers also. They could
No,
live-
there's a citizen here, and a citizen is a village property owner, not necessarily a resident. So it should be a resident or a citizen, not a stakeholder.
I think,
The outcome of the money we spend or suggest to the board that we spend on infrastructure or whatever we're doing. The trail. The 3 million that we're spending on redoing the streets and stuff, that doesn't affect the stakeholder if they're not a resident. They're not paying for any of it.
So that is why, when that person is brought here to be approved by this board. Cause it's not, I don't just make appointments and people don't just get there. That's
Well,
a
why-
question that is valid there. But why do we want to exclude those people from even being brought up? I mean, look at what happened a couple of years ago.
We're excluding somebody who has absolutely no financial skin in the game. None.
They're having input on what goes into our budget.
They're spending other people's money. They don't
So
live here.
They're not, their direction, Parks does not spend money, the village board spends money.
Well aware.
So that is, so when you say the Parks Committee has got the largest budget,
Do they?
the village has got a large budget, the
Okay.
village has the budget,
We
the
can split
village
hairs all
board.
day long on this, however. Ultimately, it starts.
So, okay, so are you,
I don't think I'm
so 3 citizen members,
vehemently opposed to having stakeholders who have zero skin in the game on that committee, or any other where there's financial ramifications for recommendations that move to the board.
So why don't we make it residents or citizens?
That's fine with me,
So they have more.
but not
stake in the game.
stakeholders, and they're, and a resident or a citizen. You know, it's either a resident or citizen is fine. And there'll be some people who say, well, they're not, a citizen is a seasonal homeowner. And why would they be on it? And by the way, we meet every month. And they have to be here, not Zoom.
I assume you mean citizen of Sister Bay,
Yeah.
not a citizen of the United States or whatever, and you're gonna define.
It says
So-
village in the definitions on page 57. It will tell you. But a seasonal person may or may not be here, and if they're not here,
I don't think
they
that
can't.
person.
They can't just look at plans on Zoom when everybody else is in them.
I don't think that's someone that you guys would approve to be on the Parks
No.
Committee anyways, like the
Agreed.
board, all the
We.
names have to, all the names have to come to the board, they all get approved.
Yep.
And if a citizen has money in it, they pay taxes.
I don't disagree.
They should
I
be,
completely agree. It's just
Yeah.
availability.
oh, totally, well, and that could be a question you could ask of them right away and then say yes or no.
I have a question, Nate.
Yes.
Are you solely the one person that appoints residents or citizens or stakeholders for these committees?
so what happens is I make the appointment, it comes to the board, then the board just says yes or no.
But anybody can recommend someone to you.
Yes.
And it can be discussed, right? Like if you know somebody who you think would be great,
Yeah.
somebody at one of the committees, bring them up.
So there's actually something that was gonna go under number 10, as long as I'm not gonna get myself in trouble, or the village in trouble. I also wanted to start, something Ben pointed out a while ago, is we put out there when we have specific vacancies that are people interested in this, where what I believe is a better thing to do is to say, are you interested in participating in the village? And having that list of people that want to participate. And then as we have roles open up, we could say, wow, this person is great for that. So, I mean,
Village
I do
finance.
try very hard to make sure it's not just
Past.
people I see and people talk to. I mean, there's an effort to get it, we've had it in the newspaper frequently.
Yeah, we stopped doing that. I don't know why, but other villages still do it because I see the ads every week. I don't know how, I'm not sure how effective it is, to tell you the truth, but they do. But having an ongoing list is great, yeah.
Yeah, when we had it in there for almost a year, and you get a few on the front end of it, and you would not get.
Well, it's like anything in the world, it's networking and knowing, that's kind of what it is, I think, especially in particular, understanding people's skills.
Can I make a quick comment?
Yes.
This is just about all of the committees, even though we're only talking about a particular few. I will say one of the biggest hurdle, if you want people to participate and run for the board and all the things, one of the biggest hurdles by far is the time commitment. And I think requiring so many trustees on the vast number of committees that we have. I mean, right now I'm on 5 or 6 committees. And the time commitment at the meetings is not bad, but all of the research and the packets and all the things outside of that, I don't think people understand how much time that is. I think if you could bring in more people from the community, you would also alleviate some of the time on some of the board members, so they wouldn't have to be on quite so many. I mean, if I'm on 5 or 6 committees, I know the same information that I know going into every committee. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't get smarter just because I joined another committee. I'm only gonna bring to the table what I bring to the table. If you have other people come in, they might have had a background in a whole nother industry that none of us have. And so I think the more people you can have participate, it not only alleviates time on board members, but you're adding a whole nother dimension of information that you just don't know. You don't know what you don't know, and you don't know what your background isn't. So I am all in favor of having 2 trustees on most committees and having the rest be residents or citizens or stakeholder dependent, you know, depending on whatever the committee is. But
I am too. It doesn't lighten anybody's load, but I'm fine for it.
I
I'm
mean, I
still
think
on
it
7
will-
committees,
I
you're
think it
still
will
on
help
5.
it.
Yes.
You know, if
Why didn't it this
could be
time?
on 4 committees instead of 6, I think that,
It didn't this time.
So the other thing here is. We also, how did anybody get involved in village government? Patrice, you and I did the same thing. We started the plan commission, and once you got a taste of plan, we went to the board. And that's the other thing, is this facilitates more engagement with the village, the residents of the village to get involved. I think that'd be another longer term gain. It's gonna take a long time for that to actually play out.
I'm fine with it. I really am. I'm just adamant that we need a citizen on parks, that's all. Fast.
Can
We're
we
looking
just
at
take out the term stakeholder?
So can I have one other proposal on that? Because I've talked
For
to,
which committee?
for parks. Can we make one of them a stakeholder?
No.
You want all 3 of them?
In my opinion, no. I'm chair and I'm going to vote no adamantly.
Okay,
I don't
so,
want them spending my money if they don't also spend their money. That's like, I wonder, I mean,
I have talked to at least 4 people that are interested in serving and have been interested in serving parks. It's been a couple of years since we had that advertisement in the newspaper. That none of them actually were residents of the village. There was one that had apartments here, that spent weekends up here, that had relevant, one was owned a landscaping company. There was a lot of meaningful experience out there that. Again, I would say, Luis, and I'm not gonna change your mind, I accept that. You're not gonna change my mind, and that's okay.
citizens elected me. Citizens elected me to spend their money and. do
So if I
some
can
other
finish
things.
that,
They wouldn't have elected a stakeholder. A citizen that shares.
so you think it's
shares in
good
the-
that we didn't
a
have, so it's
citizen
a
that
good thing that
shares
we
in
didn't
their
have
burden,
fuzzy.
A citizen that shares in their burden, of course I don't, and that's not, that isn't completely. Not that's not a fair comparison, to frankly, I don't think it is. But nonetheless. If Parks meets and this is no offense to any municipality, you name it, wherever they're from. You know, now we have somebody from, I don't know, Liberty Grove is on Parks. Liberty Grove, somebody from Liberty Grove is on Parks. Spending, making decisions on, infrastructure and buildings they'll never use and.
what if it's stuff they would use though? I mean, everybody uses, you don't have to live here to use all of the parks and all of the outdoor recreation
Yeah,
things.
and if you don't live here, you don't pay for it.
Right, but what if you get somebody and you can always say no to anybody who wants to be on it, you guys can say no. But what if you get a retired contractor whose kid lives in the village and they're like, hey, I'm up here, we rent a house in Liberty Grove all the time, whatever it is. What if they have incredible knowledge and you're just like, I totally get what you're saying, I'm just
No.
playing devil's advocate.
I'm not gonna change them.
So you're
I'm
waiting on
for
a.
state.
So let's do a straw poll here just to figure out where we're at. I'm, of course, stakeholder. Bridget,
I would be okay with one stakeholder, knowing that the board could say no to if they don't think that
Mhm.
person is qualified for the position.
Terry,
Would you do? I think where it is now, you got 3 residents. 2 residents and a stakeholder. Can you carve it up that way?
I think that would be reasonable. And actually, I don't think you're gonna have more than one stakeholder anyway. Cause you're, I mean,
Because I mean, I hear what you're saying about the stakeholder.
And it could also, that position could also be a resident, it doesn't have to be a stakeholder, right?
yeah,
But
no,
at least if you leave it as resident only. The way, then you have to follow the definition.
Mhm.
Stakeholder opens it up to
right.
the person with all that experience. So I would. I think I can see some kind of combination.
Tracy?
Now, it's resident only, no stakeholder for parks.
Julie, did you have something you want to say?
I'm just reading the definition that is in the bylaws of a stakeholder. And, the way I'm reading it is interested in the outcome of a specific village property, product, action, or service. Am I reading it that seems a little more singular than,
No, you're reading it
Committee?
correctly.
so I just wanted to bring that up, that the definition.
And our agendas are very broad. Streets, buildings, parks.
Yeah, I mean, that's not what the intention of stakeholder was, so we'd have to adjust that too, as well. I would just get
It's a
somebody that has a.
definition now.
Thank you, Luis, I appreciate it. Appreciate your snarkiness.
It's just-
Just both. Thank you so much. Skip, what are your thoughts?
I think I side on the fact that those paying taxes should be the one directing or recommending to the board how money is spent. So I think I have to stay with residents or citizens. I also do wonder, like Terry, if there's some way to include a non-voting stakeholder or something like that. I get the expertise of input that can come in certain things, and that can be a great benefit. But I do have concerns with those without a significantly vested interest in the community having too much direction. And when you're taking something and making it 50-50 trustees and somebody else, you run risk of it.
Well, actually, it isn't. The majority of people.
Luis, could you just, we're going on here, Steve?
So having heard some really good opinions and ideas here, I think we're gonna end up in a situation, at least for me, where it's like a judicial outcome, where you split the baby. In my version of splitting the baby, I have 2 residents and 1 stakeholder, as obnoxious as that is from a financial perspective. But making them a non-voting person, this I like a lot. So my proposal would be 2, which my 2 residents, 2 residents and a non-voting stakeholder. So we get their inputs, but they just have inputs.
But then we could have a lot of ties.
That was gonna be my point.
That's a problem. You have an.
Then you have to have more people.
So let me just also share something that happened in Plan Commission years ago. So that we still have an ex officio member on Plan Commission. I think for 4 months, we had somebody that actually showed up. And they're just like, well, I don't get to vote. Why am I gonna spend the time on it? And I don't disagree with your sentiment on there. But I don't know that when you have somebody that can't vote on a committee, they feel very isolated and very unempowered.
Well, I just want to point out, this is the only committee where the majority of the members were not elected by, our residents.
Which means that approval of appointments is a very serious thing for the board.
And the trouble is, we don't always know a full resume when we're looking at the suggested members of committees and.
We never see a resume.
I mean, I have gotten away from that because when you're trying to get somebody to engage in the public, it's really, you want to know the relevant experience.
I understand that, but for the rest of the board to approve somebody that they don't really know well enough. We're relying heavily on the village president to have vetted them.
Or someone else that has brought it to the village president, the board having vetted them, I guess. You know?
Yeah, I mean, there's a decent chunk of the time where I've sat down, actually, I can make the last several appointments. It was a known quantity because it was people, I mean, yourself, Skip.
Yeah, I know.
Like, there was no, I mean, there's a lot of time for people know there. That hasn't been an issue. I can see how it could be an issue. Because there's been people like, so if you look at Plan Commission, Jerry Aaron's. People were familiar with Jerry because he'd been on parks for so many years. Which is a lot of what happens, which is not the goal of this, actually. The goal of this would be to get other people involved.
I think I could be comfortable with your suggestion, Steve, of 2, 2, and 1. 2 trustees, 2 residents, and 1 stakeholder or citizen.
But we won't have a tie.
Voting or?
Oh,
letting
2,
them-
2, and 1 says 5.
Okay,
I mean,
So what
it's-
happens if we do some recruiting and we don't find any residents, we just find stakeholders?
Then
that-
you would
that's
need
what
to
I'm
find
looking
other
at.
people,
Right.
2 of them have to be.
We've got 2 residents on there now.
No, what I mean is you've got 2 trustees, right? And then you want 3 people who have not been elected by the residents in the village. And I think that if you ended up with 2, I think you said, I'm sorry, there's 3, so 2 residents, 1 stakeholder, is that what you said?
That's what I said. yeah.
Okay, okay. So then we have 1 stakeholder that's come, but we can't find any residents.
We have residents.
No. My.
I said that if we can.
No, of course we have residents.
Yeah.
You
You've got
could
the
only
trustees.
choose with 1 stakeholder then, you would have to find more residents.
Yeah, you'd have to.
Or citizens, or whatever. you
Yeah.
call it.
But then I would suggest that that stakeholder isn't appointed till we find a resident.
What? That doesn't make any sense.
What I said.
If you want a full staff, yeah,
Well, that's not gonna happen. Well, that's not true. I mean, hopefully it will. I mean, right now it's
I would think so, and
been 3 months.
you know what's great about people? I genuinely think people come to these committees really, really wanting to help, and a lot of them would probably do more. And would consider, you know, we are elected, but a lot of people won't even put their hat in that race because they know they don't have the time. But they want to
Right.
help, and so they can help
Right.
with these, with a specific committee.
Parks
And
is a
so-
lot of time.
Right, but that's, you know, one entity. At
I know,
least
I
you
got
could
you.
just do that and not
Right.
have to do,
I understand. Mhm.
but I think there's a lot of really smart people around town.
Well, good.
Who I
talk
think
to
would
'em.
love to help. So,
That are year round, they're year round, not for a winter.
well, we've got some people on, you know, the Marina Committee, they have to, we do a lot of our winter meetings via Zoom because they're not here, but they are very knowledgeable people.
But
We don't
it's
do
really
any
hard to
Zoom in
do
parks.
Zoom on parks.
You have. to-
No, I'm not saying for parks in particular, I'm just saying committees.
Okay, so is that? Do we want, I mean, like, I think that we're adopting these all at once, so is there any discussion about, there are other committees other than parks? It's not the only one there, it's part of this. Is there any issue with utilities? Or personnel, and again, personnel would be a right fit for that, and that's something we do have to be very mindful of. As we talk to that person, I think that one would require probably an in-person vetting by the board. But I can think of at least 2 or 3 people out in the community that might do that have the experience right now, that we know of. Something one of my friends has told me, says, it's a real shame. You don't know what all these folks in our community do until you read their obituary, and you see like all of the experience that is out there. There is a tremendous amount of knowledge and life that has been lived out there.
I would just say for personnel, and I'm fine with stakeholders in this case, but I would really want to have both of them to have deep knowledge in human resources. Otherwise, I don't see how I mean, we really need that.
I don't see,
Otherwise, I don't see him adding any value.
that's exactly how I'm looking at this, is this, you're gonna have to have that relevant experience.
Is that a 3 trustees and up to 2 stakeholders?
Well, if you have 4, it's an uneven number, and you got a problem.
Not necessarily, if you're doing that much a committee, most of the things that pass here are
On personnel, you need an odd number.
but I'm hearing from you, Luis, is committees that you're on, you're uncomfortable with a even number.
It's good practice.
I don't disagree with that, but what I was saying was considering a fully stocked committee.
Yeah,
Right now it's 3 trustees.
right now it's 3 trustees.
Right.
That's what it's done for.
So adding somebody with expertise or 2 people
Mhm.
is a benefit. But are you considering it only a full committee with 5 or? if you don't have two additional stakeholders that offer great benefit, just throwing a body in there isn't a good thing.
No, they have to have, I think,
Yeah,
a deep knowledge and.
That's
and
why I was
expertise
saying
in
one
that,
one
yeah.
or two stakeholders.
Well, again, I'm a proponent of having an uneven number of people on a committee, because I worry about ties. And I, in particular, worry about, not in particular, but I would worry about a tie in personnel.
so let's,
I agree with the not wanting a tie, but if someone walked in tomorrow and was like, hey, I'm a retired HR guy, would
Mhm.
love to help. I would hate to say no to them, be like, no, you can't join until we can find a second person.
Okay, so we're gonna go into compensation. And we're about to decide compensation. I know it goes to the board and it's a tie. About what we do. You know, those are hard decisions to make and they affect people's lives. I really feel strongly that we should have an odd number of people for. So what happens with a tie in personnel?
how doesn't it?
Well, I mean, if the motion failed, another, there would have to be a compromise at some point.
Okay.
Okay, so how about utilities? I've left that one, I mean, I've left parks and utilities down for what is perceived as down one trustee, because I very strongly think that we need other people involved in that. Is there any resistance on utilities? Is there any other thoughts on that? I'm actually surprised that this one didn't get more attention from everyone, because this one is a potentially. It's the one where I could actually, doesn't take much to convince me that this should be a resident. Based on
Yeah, this is
the
crazy.
history.
Well, and this is, I mean, what they're gonna, from what I understand anyway. You know, the issues that we're facing. I would want it to be a resident. The issues we're already facing. With utility charges, et cetera, that's not going away.
Yeah.
Well,
And the
the
issues that we're
lawsuits.
facing, well, not just the lawsuits also, but also, you know, the utility charges and the increases in those and what we may have to do with, you know, future infrastructure out there and stuff. It's a chunk of change.
Mhm. Okay, so
I think that resident makes sense on this one also.
I do too.
okay. So I don't think we have consensus on personnel. I mean, two stakeholders, but we want to fill both. That's not something we can put, I think we should put in the bylaws. If we don't want to appoint one person at a time, then we should do that when an appointment comes up. Or we could say that if there's a tie, the side of the two trustees wins or advances. Can we do that, Ben? Is that?
They're
I think that
weighted?
would have.
Yes,
Why
and
don't you just, why don't you
voting.
just put a third trustee on there?
You already have a
There-
third trustee.
there's
We
a
don't-
pretty
Then why don't we
big
just have the whole
conflict.
board meet
Sorry,
with
you
everything?
can't do that, yeah.
Yeah, there could be some complications associated with that. And it might make it more complicated administratively. But again, you know, if it was, I don't know how many things were ties. I'd have to go back to see what
With-
it was.
when?
Well, I'm just saying in terms of, it's always been three trustees. I mean. if
We've
one
never
was not
had a-
Present, yeah.
We've never had an even number of people on committees.
How many of the votes are unanimous versus split?
Well, again, I only have 2 years or a year and a half or something like that. And I would say for the most part, they were unanimous. Yes,
Yeah, I don't remember a non-unanimous vote when I was on personnel for 2 years before that, so we've got 4 or 5 years where there hasn't been a non-unanimous vote.
So the opportunity for a tie is probably not as strong. Yes, it's possible, but it's probably not gonna be an everyday event.
Right.
If you have.
it may not be. I'm just trying to get ahead of it, that's all. 'Cause
Right.
there's a reason that, you know, whether it's us or a committee or another municipality, an organization, whatever, it's why they.
I don't disagree with you on these. Just trying to think of. Rational ways.
So then the only solution is to say that we don't want to expand the committee to include two stakeholders. I don't agree with that.
I don't mind expanding the committee because it's very difficult, you know, when there's 3 people on a committee. that it's difficult if you wanna, I mean, hard to talk about anything with anybody, because then you're in violation of closed session. And so we don't, ever. But if I wanna just get an opinion or something, you can't do it, that's hard. But it's just not the best, you don't get the best. You don't get the best out of, what could happen, in preparing for a meeting or something like that, I don't know. So if it's, we're back to, we're in personnel, so if it's two stakeholders. Is that what we're
Yeah.
talking about, right? Okay.
So I think that what we've got the votes for here, or what the votes are for is gonna be 3 citizens on parks. I don't necessarily love that, but I think that's where it lands. Unless I'm miscalculating. Utilities is 1 citizen. And going from 3 trustees to 2. On parks, it's also 3 trustees to 2. And then personnel is adding 2 stakeholder seats, and the only way I see to deal with that is as we make appointments, we just need to make sure that we don't make an appointment for personnel one at a time.
It would be helpful. I mean, if we make one and we have a tie, then we'll figure it out.
Okay,
I just want to clarify, I think when you said for utility with 1 citizen,
yeah, it's right here as stakeholders, written as stakeholder, but
okay. We'll be
So-
doing,
so parks, 2 trustees, 3 citizens.
Yep.
Utilities would be 2 trustees, 1 citizen. Personnel would be 3 trustees, 2 stakeholders.
Is that
So
your
we're not
motion?
doing the up to 2 stakeholders?
Up to 2, I mean, like for personnel, that's 2, it's effectively up to 2.
Is that your motion?
We
Yeah,
make a motion.
I'll
to
make a motion.
expand the village admin building.
What?
You want it?
Oh, yes, and
Yes.
it'll include
Yeah.
disbanding the village admin.
Okay.
Okay, that's my motion.
Second.
Motion by Bell, second by Kelly. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Commemorative bench program policy and donation agreement.
all right, so this is coming out of parks here. There was quite a few meetings where this was discussed in terms of the policy, on a high level, just going over some of the different changes that were made. Is that essentially there was the introduction of a tiered location system, tier 1 and tier 2. Tier 1 was persons that were more connected to the village. Tier 2 was just you could have a more general connection. It also included the reevaluation of the installation fee. That was changed from $1,000 to $3,000 for the donation that'd be applied to it. It also includes some specific language regarding the renewal responsibility shifting from the village over to the person who would be making the application for the approved application, that it would ultimately be their responsibility to reach out to the village after the 10-year term so that they could maintain the bench. So with that, there was quite a few edits that were made, and this is the proposed policy that the Parks Committee recommended go to the village board. What is being asked here is to consider the approval of the memorial bench policy. Historically, this has been something that has been included for the village board to adopt. When looking into it, it was not necessarily to include it in the fee schedule because it's considered a donation and not necessarily a fee as part of it. But with that being said, the fee or the donation would be associated with the policy.
I have a question, Ben. Is the actual cost of purchasing a bench, memorial bench, $3,000?
Yes. So
That's
it-
the actual cost, so it's gone up.
So talking about staff time, materials, pouring the slab, all of that's included as part of Eric's cost estimate that was discussed at a committee level.
Really high.
But I thought you came up with a number that was just short of 5,000.
So it depends on if we had it be put out to another firm that would be doing. some of the
So
work.
3,000 covers our cost.
Right, you basically were breaking
Of
even.
bench and
And
installation.
actually, in some, we may be losing a little bit of money, but
And
It's-
is the policy that if you have a bench now, you get it for 10 years, and then you need to renew that bench, is that correct?
So what the old policy had was that ultimately it would be the village that would be coordinating that or reaching out and initiating that conversation about the bench renewal. It's the intention, if this policy was adopted, that we'd be sending out letters to any of the folks that have the benches that are over the 10-year period to indicate that it would be up for renewal. Moving forward for any new benches, it would be the responsibility of the owner of the applicant to ultimately initiate that process after the 10-year period.
So then it would
And-
cost them $3,000 to replace that bench?
yeah, in 10 years, that bench will probably cost us $5,000.
Yes, and then it was noted just from an administrative use that we would be indicating, you know, the date of placement and the date of termination and providing that notification as part of the process.
But it would be the people that, initially purchased the bench responsibility to contact the village and let the village know they want to renew.
Right, I mean. I just feel, I know that that's what it costs the village to pay, but it seems like this program is getting so priced that. The regular person, resident that's not wealthy can't afford to get a bench for their parents. $3,000, $5,000,
I didn't say $5,000.
I mean, $5,000, maybe,
In 10 years?
10 years,
Okay,
yeah,
I have no idea, but
But-
right now, it's $1,000.
right.
We lose.
We're,
No, I understand that, but I'm just saying, it seems to be becoming more of a program for just the wealthy, and I don't think
I
that's.
think if you look at the list of people who have, let me just respond, the list of people that have applied. I'm not sure that they would fit that profile, let's put it that way.
so Patrice, I think how I look at this is it something that should be a shared village cost? Or should it be the people that actually have the benches? And that's unfortunate they're getting that expensive, and I think that, even in discussions of parts, one of the things I said is, well, we don't have to necessarily recapture all of our costs because we do need benches. So simply subsidizing them can be enough. But we're also looking at a demand for it, and would I like it if everybody could have a bench for $100? That'd be great, but I'm also not comfortable putting that expense upon the rest of the village taxpayers.
No, and I get that, I'm just like, my dad has a bench, we paid $1,000. In a couple of years, it'll be 10 years, we're gonna get a letter, and then the new one's gonna cost $5,000, and I'm just thinking. he's probably gonna lose the
I wish I
bench.
wouldn't have said that, I don't know what it's gonna cost.
Or 3,000.
If you're renewing, with it,
How much room do we have in the village for, like, how many more benches can we put
we
out
have
there?
a finite,
before
right
the
now we
trip-
have 78, I think, do we have 78, am I right?
I think it might be more so like in the
85, whatever. And so it actually is on the GIS map. And I think she finished that project, right?
It's on the village.
On the
GIS.
village's
There's not,
GIS,
you won't see
right?
it on the third
It's on the
copy.
village's GIS, and we made Pebble Beach unavailable. No one can buy a bench at Pebble Beach, which made, I think, sense for everyone. And so it's a good question. So how many more can we fit? We've never discussed that. Of course, that's subjective, right? But everybody, typically, a lot of times, everybody wants, the waterfront. Or everybody, they all want, and so that space obviously there's a finite amount of space and we're not gonna load it up with, again, that's a parks decision. Here's the layout of because you've got Marina Park, then you've got the waterfront, and you've got I don't think we can fit any more benches, but we have to look in front of the pavilion. So that's all that's like a zero-sum
Pretty
game,
much.
there's not much, yeah. So what's left? You can do sports complex, you can do the library, not the library, sorry, the dog park, and so there's not. I can't tell you, maybe we could fit another 13, I don't know, we have to look at that map, I really don't know. I'm not sure. But the village, when they've reached out to people that have benches, never hear back. Yeah, I wanna renew, no, I don't wanna renew, oftentimes the communication is not great.
But
Yes, Jack.
question would be, so you reach out to somebody to renew and you don't hear back. What happens?
With the
to
new
bench?
policy, we aren't gonna reach out to see if they wanna renew.
What happens to the bench?
So that is a position that staff has been put in before, and it's been an uncomfortable position for past staff, because if something.
You remove-
Contact has tried to, yeah, I mean, ultimately, it puts the responsibility in the past policy for the village to. Then be responsible for contacting them, trying to make as many attempts as possible, and then if they come back, you know, and it has been removed, it creates an uncomfortable position.
Hmm.
Ultimately, if it's the responsibility of the applicant to know
Right.
the data and reach out.
Yeah,
You know, it makes the process a little bit easier.
So the footprint might stay there, the bench may change, which means you change of one or two of the boards because the name would change.
The life of the timbers is only so long.
And that's true too. And also it depends on how you treat
if
them.
I'm paying $3,000, I want all new.
Well,
I don't want half old and.
it also depends on how you treat them, which is also, then you're starting to talk about labor. Because now you've got the Parks Department cleaning 90 benches with whatever, I can't remember what we used last time, you might remember, there's a particular solution that we use. And how frequently do we do it, and that's labor. They can be labor intensive, you know, it's not, being outside.
Two-part process with a real strong base.
Well, you know
and then
that,
acid.
you of anybody know that, right, exactly, so that also goes into the price of the bench to keep it looking good. We really tried to be fair, we really tried to be fair.
This came back to Parks.
Six
times, yeah.
easily.
Bridget?
This is more just a question. So if you do end up removing a bench and replacing it. I know it won't cost the village as much to install one because the concrete pad's already there and that's the majority of the cost, is what I'm understanding. Like,
It depends on what shape the bench is in, I
Yeah.
suppose, but I don't know.
okay, well, I think maybe it was in Eric's summary or something, he called out two different prices for the concrete underneath. And then he said he had reached out several times to the carpenter who does the wood for them and didn't get a response, but I noticed.
Yeah, that's
in our-
Bob Jiski, and he doesn't have the time to do it.
Yeah, well, I noticed in our financials, there's actually the only line item I've ever seen in there about the benches. Robert Jischke.
Yeah.
Constructing memorial bench, June 10th, $550. So I'm sure that's just for the wood portion of it and not for the concrete or anything.
That's probably the engraving too.
Yeah, what he's doing is, he's doing the,
I actually thought that was fairly reasonable, so if it's that plus the concrete, and the concrete was like 2,500 or something, you really are coming out around 3,000.
well, and you're not even, don't forget their loaded labor cost.
Right,
And when we plan for it in your budget, you've got to load it.
but what if somebody can't afford that and they wanna get a memorial bench, and we're taking one off and the concrete's great and it's already there?
They pay 3,000.
We can't do anything.
Yes.
It makes it very cumbersome to kind of say, okay,
Yeah.
this place we could do this one, that's
We
really.
can find a break price
Cause
there.
they also, you know, we can't necessarily, we can work with them to get the space that they want, but at the end of the day as well, you know, it's selecting a
That'll work.
specific area and then we can try to get it best with the wishes as possible, but. You know, to have it be micromanaged to say this exact spot, might be difficult.
Yeah,
One of the challenges we've had is the amount of staff time that goes into this on the back end of it.
gotcha.
If you could ask Sarah how much time she spent on it.
Hours.
Yeah,
Hours.
it's a tremendous sink of time.
I think like 75 to 80% of the benches are currently past the 10-year mark as well.
Yeah.
Because it took so much time to follow up, there wasn't really a good process in place, and then a lot of times when somebody doesn't call you back. It goes on the bottom of the list, then you go, what goes to the top of the list is getting ready for a meeting like tonight, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It goes on, okay, what's on fire?
So what happens if we cut off making benches in the future? Like now?
You said we're not doing benches?
Yeah.
then
People
people
left
could
it out
buy,
around?
then people could buy memorial bricks for the village hall renovation.
Yes.
That would be a great idea.
That's happening.
Well, the village would still, like, ideally, it just depends whether or not, if it's,
The benches will deteriorate over time.
Mhm.
And they're replacing anyway.
That'd be 10-year, it'd be like the wait list for the marina.
Right?
Mhm. Like I said, it's a really good question, and we have not tackled, okay, what's the ideal number, or what's the goal, or do we just stop now, that's it, we're not having any more?
Yeah, especially with a small number of potential future ones.
Mhm,
When you told me that, thinking the game might be over real soon.
mhm.
So,
I really would love to, I mean, it's because, and good for Megan for doing it, I'd like to see the map. To see where those dots are, I mean, we have, anyway, so we should see where they are, but nonetheless, it's not like it's, well, let's do more benches because we make so much money on them, we don't.
Right.
You know,
right,
but it's also an accommodation to someone, or a family, or, of course, so it's a fine line.
So should the policy include a wait list?
There is a wait list. We've got 3 or 4 people waiting right now, right? Oh, you wouldn't know, there's 3 or 4 people waiting right now.
I'm gonna go ahead. and
Mostly
make-
they're waiting for.
I'm gonna make a motion that we approve this as presented. Motion by Bell,
Second.
motion by Bell, second by White, all those in favor?
I,
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Finally, Garrett, development agreement coming of age in Sister Bay. So this, we'll go you, bud.
Oh, yeah. So this was forwarded from the Plan Commission. Ultimately, there was a few rounds of this. Essentially, what the request of the Plan Commission was to have a updated development agreement that wouldn't be a amendment, but just a new development agreement that would be drafted. And that it would incorporate the different revisions that were included from the previous amendment, and also including some of the different items that were included as part of the second proposed amendment, which included an updated driveway list to include 2 driveways at 18-foot driveways, the approval of the proposed sunroom for the second house, and then for the clarification of the screening requirements for propane tanks. And then there was items about the confirmation for a landscaping plan. But essentially, at the last Plan Commission meeting, it was requested that there would be an updated driveway and drainage plan that would be included as part of this to the village board. It was sent out over to the Plan Commission members, and that the Plan Commission members that are not included as part of the village board did indicate within email responses that they did not have any concerns as part of it. So that was provided over from the applicant, thank you, Garrett, as part of it. And that the proposed development agreement was revised to include the requirements that the Plan Commission discussed. And that this was also submitted over for legal counsel prior to the village board, which he indicated that it included all the requirements that were discussed from the Plan Commission. So with that, as part of it, if there is any questions associated with the items that are discussed at the Plan Commission or the development agreement, I can answer it. Otherwise, we do have Garrett here as well. We can answer any questions.
All right.
I do. For Garrett, so what is the conveyance of water from the roofs and downspouts to their biodetention? I see like surface downspout down in between the buildings. It looks like there's a kind of a drainage toward that, but I don't see anything specific handling the outside parts of the house and or the driveways.
Everything either goes offsite to the backside of the building to the west. In between what you're talking about, we'll go through a swale of the pond as shown there.
Yeah, that I recognize the grade there going over the pond.
There are 2 downspouts that come between the garage lines of each building that are direct connected into that pond.
And just wanted to make a note as well. I know I've been talking about it at the Plan Commission, but originally as part of this plan, the driveway was initially 1 driveway, and as part of this plan, it's being proposed as 2 driveways. And that was approved by the Plan Commission because it is per code that it would be approved if it did have 2 driveways.
Yeah, I'm got on the list to the 18-foot.
Yeah,
That's shown there.
it's gonna have less disruption to the front of the side of the road.
Will those driveways and parking areas be pitched a little bit toward the detention or? How is, I mean, between the structures, concrete is a fair amount. Surface water has got to go somewhere.
Yeah, the two, there's a slight pitch, the northern building goes a little south, the southern building goes a little north, so they all pitch towards the south.
Okay, so they will pitch toward the end. Okay. Because it didn't show up clearly on the drainage plan, so.
I don't have a grading plan in front of me at all. Yep.
Yes.
This is not a drainage question. Am I missing it again? Are we not have a height on here?
So it is 25.5.
I don't-
feet.
If you have a 9-foot first floor and an 8-foot second floor plus roof, I don't understand how you get to only 25.5. I'm not being nitpicky with you guys, it's just comes up.
No, I asked this
Nitpicky
question.
across the board.
I asked this
It,
question.
I think it should be, it's gotta be called out somewhere. I mean, the floor heights are called out, but not second floor to the top or overall height. I know chimneys don't count, but it's pretty tall. You guys have that on a plan anywhere?
Peak of the gable, for example, so you're asking.
The peak of the, what is the
That-
ground
that-
level of peak of
That's
the
what we
roof?
got the information, the architect was 25.5 feet.
From grade to the top of the roof.
I think he's talking about to the top of the gables, not the top of the roof. To the top of the gable could totally be 25.5. My guess is he knows what the rules are and he's keeping it under 35, but
All right, it's no different than what we have there right now. No heights have changed from the current building that's there.
I wasn't.
But that
around
was
for that one.
prior to the current codes.
Oh, yeah,
That's why I was asking the question at the last meeting about the overall height of the building.
yeah, I thought we had. Made that clear in the last one, it was gonna be written somewhere, I just don't see it, and I just wanna make sure that's in there.
I agree, you all correctly, the code change and current max height is 35 feet. Did I hear that right?
Correct.
Yeah,
I can't see that as any taller than 35 feet. I'm trying to bring it up.
yeah, you know, it's probably under, but it has to be called out somewhere. Cause it's such a stickler item.
So wouldn't it normally be on the plans? Why is it on the plans?
I don't know, and you don't have to submit all of your engineering plans or anything like that, but it should at least be called out on that thing.
So it can be, just depending on if there's anything else at all, but would it be amenable as part of the plans if we can get something for a plan set that could have the calculation for that?
You see it in here?
Just on the
Ben?
elevation, have the height spelled out, you're asking.
Yeah.
It's really just have notate that on there. I mean, I'm just looking, this is to get eyeballing here, but based on our side profile.
I was gonna say, if you
Even
guys,
if we're at 9 and 9, you need triple that to 27, there's. No way that's taller than 35 feet, but we can certainly submit just an elevation profile that just has that.
yeah, I was saying, if your contractor already has the full set of plans, he's got it.
Yeah.
I mean, it should be in an email somewhere.
If we look at the scale that's on page 117, it's 30 feet. That's accurate, plus or minus a foot. From 30 feet on there.
So what I hear that I'm looking at is, the other thing I wish he cut off the top part, which organically, from 9 feet, 1 1/8 inches, 8 feet, 1.5 inches, you have a truss that is 18 inches. Quick math here, from sure about 18 at that point. We have 9, 12 roof pitch, so it'd be right around 27-ish feet, so it's 25.5, and I double verify that, but I can promise we're under 35 feet.
Okay.
But we can have it explicitly noted there, and then just send a copy.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and yeah, honestly, yeah, and but if your engineers have sent you anything, it's probably in that full set email, you probably got an email with the full set of
No, I
documents.
have it up in front of me here, but for whatever reason, that part's not mentioned.
Yeah.
So. It's detail 2/A3, for some reason, we don't have that full. We can certainly have them do that, so.
Yeah, 'cause I'm fine with everything else, but if that isn't called out, I don't think you could officially. I don't know.
Well, what I would recommend is that just as a condition of the executed development agreement, that it would be incorporated for the plan set to have that specific page included.
Yeah, and not just an email saying what the height is, I think just Gotta have a
The
screenshot,
village-
something
village
to
should
print
have-
and put
village
in the,
drawings with the.
yeah. Otherwise, we're gonna get somebody coming back saying, well, their building is 30 feet and blah, blah, you know, and then.
I promise we wanted to match the other one. So yeah, but we'll be exact. We'll get that to you, we promise.
So-
Motion that we approve with that addition to the development agreement.
So.
Motion by Hagler. I'll second by Bell. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Guys, thank you. I'm excited to see the contractor right now. You'll get this tomorrow.
Okay, development agreement for Luna View.
All right, so this one is a revised development agreement for the Luna View development. Essentially, it was brought forward that there would be some revisions to the site plan. And adjusting the plat and the roof design elements and guest parking requirements. It was discussed at Plan Commission and that the revisions are indicated within the bullet points there. I'll go through it briefly, but reassigning the rooftop deck would be associated with unit 301. Updating some different guest parking that were initially within the guest parking lot and assigning a new area along the entryway. And then there also was different clarifications of the top of the building and the existing white rooftop and other structures as part of it. So the Plan Commission took a peek at the proposed development agreement amendment, and this is what was proposed to be submitted to the village board for consideration for approval. Just wanted to make a note here as well as some of the different portions that were associated with changing the rooftop appearance to colors of brown, tan, or gray. There was some different discussion that was associated with residents regarding this that are above this development. And that generally, when discussing it at the Plan Commission meeting, there wasn't any concerns about that specific language to be included.
Okay. Any questions?
Motion.
Yeah, motion by Heidler.
Question, is it,
Hold on, I'll second it. Not question.
yeah, second for,
Oh, okay, second by Kelly.
at the top here, you get $3.99 Maple and throughout it, it's $23.99. Page 123.
Talking about the address,
2399 Maple.
on page 125, it's 2399. What page are you on, Gary?
123, the very first thing, the memo staff report.
Yeah,
Oh, it's missing, yeah.
Yeah, just in the beginning, it might have been there, but everything is included as part of the 2399.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, monthly financial report and appropriations. So I'll make a motion, we pay the bills in the amount of $455,119.94. Motion by Bell,
Second.
second by White. Questions? So I have something I want to say. Just something to call out here, and it's not gonna be something we're gonna easily fix, but it's something we really should do. You look at the top of page 134. The village is paying Cellcom almost $600 a month for cell phones. There's better ways to do that these days. We should be able to save ourselves probably something like $400 if we look at that. I know that it's something that we've had for a long time, but. And Cellcom's working, so it's hard, but that's still a lot of money.
so is that something that Technology and Telecom Committee can look at?
When we can come up with, I mean. It's,
Or what, so who would have the task of taking a look at a different contract for
Yes.
2027?
Based on a contract the village has, so then it becomes part of staff.
It's not, the problem is it's this contract that has been extended because somebody gets a new phone, so then they don't get a new contract, they take the discounted phone. And they keep doing that.
So how do we make a change?
We can start with the technology, I mean, Ben, what's the,
Yeah, I mean, it depends if it's a policy issue or just something to look into in terms of either consolidating existing services and seeing where we can find efficiencies. Or we can also look at a new provider, but it can either be committee or I can just look into it and see what other alternatives are out there.
so I guess what I'd recommend is Ben start by reaching out to Mick O'Malley at Telcom. You've got contact information for him somewhere.
Okay.
And just tell him I complain about the bill. Mick knows me and we'll try and do something. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Staff reports.
Actually, I do have one quick question. Sorry, guys. So the marina got all new uniforms, is that the deal?
I don't know, actually. I looked at that too, was gonna bring that up tomorrow and.
His dates are very bright.
I do see a lot of different color shirts running around, so.
The yellow one,
Right.
Yellow, red, the red ones, I think are new ones.
Well, one says, but you guys, one says marina logo wear for, are they selling that?
Yes.
Oh, so that's wholesale, and then you'll see revenue on the other side. Okay, that's what I get. Okay, that makes sense. Gotcha.
And can I ask Vlad a question? The Cassell semi-annual update? Are those really, that's about how much we pay semi-annually?
Correct.
Okay, I'm adding it up. I think this is gonna help your case in finance.
So you're talking about the costs that come under GA, or are you saying the Cassell direct ones?
The ones on page 134 to Cassell LLC, is that just software update? Like your semi-annual software?
So
Okay,
if you look at 133, you also have all of the labor to do the installations on that.
where?
It's probably 5 lines down on 133, GA computer services.
But it was one time for 10 years, so we just updated the server. So. And
So that's actually a hardware split.
yeah, we had a server, but that's the transition into new server.
So is that a hardware or is that a labor?
Part of that is licensing.
Are we paying GA for licensing or do we pay directly to Cassell for licensing?
No, he ended up purchasing the bridge piece. That, Nate, you IT guys, so help me out.
I mean, like the bridge
So
piece,
we had a server, then there's certain things he had to bridge out from in order to make it compliant with requirements from Cassell. So that was one-time purchase. And he put like 6 hours of work.
okay.
So altogether it was 2,200, which is 600 work, and the other one, the rest is like.
For equipment.
But those, I mean, like this is the 611 invoice. So that was part of the invoice thing you shot over to me the other day, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll have to dig on that one. I started going through it. I didn't make it to June though.
I did have one question, I'm just curious how we handle it, like, so equipment that we buy goes under our capital investment or capital purchases program,
Not all the equipment though.
the vehicles and all that, I mean, things that
Yeah.
depreciate over time, we spend $14,000 on a chipper cover, is that something that should be, is that in capital or is that just
That's in,
expense?
we're going to decide, I guess, when the audit's gonna happen next year. Like,
That's one of the adjustments they'll make,
yeah,
okay.
like Elizabeth said, 1 year, we got all figured out, and then when the new year comes, things shift. So it can be capital.
Because it seems like being on a vehicle, that would be a capital investment that would fall into too, especially that price category.
It could be, but not always that's the case.
Okay, let's go on to staff reports then. So Ben, you've got your report in here. So you included the timeline. done our TID report. One comment I had on staff reports. And I think it's really Eric's is, I understand why you put yours in there the way it is, but. Can we not have? Attachments of, like, if I look at 159. 159, and then I think after that, 159, 160, 161. I really feel like I'd like to keep it to the actual staff report and not all the extraneous things that are coming from outside sources. I understand why you did yours as a supporting document. I think that's kind of an anomaly, but I would like to see us keep the staff reports a little bit more of a summary.
Okay, yeah.
I had a question for Ben in regards to his, staff report, and that was, okay, it looks like he had a meeting with Michelle Lowry, right? And it says that, here we go. In early June to discuss village project.
So just discuss village projects. So we were discussing some of the different projects and how we can potentially utilize some of the economic development initiatives that they can provide for the village and just utilizing their services that they provide.
Okay, because it said project, and I thought there was one particular project, but it should have been
The village.
A
project,
village project, yeah.
so it should be an S, okay. All right, and then their strategic plans are attached, okay.
Any other questions?
I know, I kind of like some of the attachments. Like in Eric's, he gave the summaries, but in a couple of them, I didn't understand what he was talking about until I saw the attachment that he put in. And I don't know if he made it his summary real brief because he knew he was gonna include it.
No, I mean, like. This whole thing that just blows up the end of it, where you've got all of this.
I read through that whole history panel. I love them.
Yeah,
If that wasn't in there, I would have been so
But that
sad.
was really like, so, I
It
guess,
really didn't belong in his report, and that should have come to Parks.
yeah, that's something that you
Oh,
could.
didn't it go to Parks?
No.
Oh, well.
So
It's
the
not
other part
great.
of that is, it should have been an agenda item at Park
Right.
instead of being in the packet.
Oh,
So now,
And there's
We're-
another page that he put in there that should have been gone to Parks because it was financial.
oh, gotcha. Well, I love the sign you guys are doing. Signs.
and that's something you should totally be able to go into the Parks agenda packet and look at if you really want to. It's just a matter of like, I'm just saying that. We want an overview at this level.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm with you, I do like visuals when needed, you know?
Okay,
That's how I figured out what the chip expense was, that you know, picture.
Right, that's me too. I was like, what in the world is that? Okay. Mhm.
okay, committee reports. So we will start with finance. I have a question for you, Louise.
Yes,
You voted against the 0% increase. You usually have a good reason for
no,
doing
it wasn't 0% increase, it was the information we were gonna use to do the budget, and I'm glad you brought it up, because I didn't want it to look like I wasn't for, I wanted to show, I wanted to show last year and the budget both,
Okay,
and we don't do that. We plan against the current budget. And that is, I was never taught that way. We budget against a budget.
But we show the previous year's numbers also when we're doing it.
It's the previous year's numbers, what I would prefer to see is, and this, it's hard for us to do this because I prefer to see projected 26. And I'm always told it's hard to do because and I understand it, it's not like, you know, everybody's making this up. But it's because the invoices, we don't know because the invoices come in late, and sometimes they come in so late that it follows to the, you know, but I'm
But you
used.
know what you bought.
But, well, I'm just saying that I'm used to doing a budget from the bottom up, and I'm used to doing a budget based on prior year, projected current year. And the prior year budget, fine, you can look at all of that, and then saying, okay, but then what do I really need? And you can use that history to guide you, but it shouldn't be, it isn't necessarily, you don't, just because you spent it last year doesn't mean that's what you need this year, that's all. But flat is fine, but that flat was to the budget. That was to the budget,
Can I add something to that?
wasn't it? I think it was to the budget, not last year.
And we also directed staff to view where the previous year's numbers actually
I
came
understand
in,
that.
so to
But
look at what they budgeted for last year, but then
Gotcha.
also look at their actuals and try to
I
close
know.
the gap.
I completely understand, but I've never had given direction or taken direction that I was supposed to budget flat to the current budget, ever.
So back without the 2024, when I first started, just trying to figure out the whole approach for budgeting the village of Sister Bay and for the municipalities in Wisconsin. Why is budgeting against budget?
Yeah.
Because you relying on the levy. So if you budget against the actual, therefore for the next year, you will be asking for possibly less levy. So over the time,
Mhm.
you know, there's certain increase in levies that you can pretty much claim, let's say. So if you're gonna budget in against the actual, if the actual is gonna go down, so you would not be able to claim the
You lose your capacity to.
I understand that.
levy.
Yep, I get it. I do
That's what
understand it.
The concern that Adam back in the days brought out, and he explained, he projected out that it's at some time in the future, if you're gonna keep budgeting against the actual, you might gonna be super short and you're gonna end up
Gotcha.
borrowing.
Okay.
That's the only reason, other than that,
Okay,
Well, that's part of doing the projections,
Right.
is to make up those.
right. And again, there's a caveat with projections, but you know, it makes it more complicated, which I understand. I do, but that's why I voted nay. I didn't vote like nay to no, don't make it flat. It was just not the process, but budget to budget was something that it didn't make sense to me.
Any other questions on committee reports?
I have a comment on parks. So Julie, someone has devised the historical signage, which I think is a great idea. However, the Historical Society is not over the moon over this. There's a lot of mistakes and inaccuracies. They blatantly missed listing, for example, the village school, the Catholic church, L. Johnson's Beginnings, Johnny's Cottage Restaurant, Lamb's Cottages, and House Four Seasons, and that's just some of them. Why are we including Liberty Grove in this? Hotel du Nord for one example, the Zion Lutheran Church for another example, things that were not in the Village of Sister Bay. I think that needs to be corrected and addressed.
So to answer your question, we are correcting it, maybe it's a bad word, but addressing it. So when we took a look at the images that you're seeing in Eric's report, there was understandably a bit of a disconnect, not just, and I've talked to Terry Wolf a number of occasions, and a bit of a disconnect in terms of what our expectation was and what the finished product looked like. So Ben has been in touch with Julie Hine is the artist and the one that put it together. And we've scheduled a meeting with Ben, myself, and we did invite anyone from Parks that wanted to join us. John, who was the president of the Historical Society, and Terry to go through. Let's look at these images. Let's talk about what our expectations were. Let's see, basically, because I think there was a bit of to your point, some inaccuracy, but maybe, and equally also what kind of the vision of what the Historical Society had in mind, what I remember from the discussion at Parks and what the end product looks like. So we're gonna do that on Friday, right, this Friday? And we don't know if Julie can join us, so we need Julie there to have that discussion. So rest assured that Ben has been in constant communication with Julie and the Historical Society, and I left a message for Julie like a month or so ago and did wind up talking to her before she sent us over the final renderings. And so anyway, we're looking to resolve it.
Okay, can I come to that meeting?
Sure, yeah,
What time is
but it's Friday, but I'm gonna caution you that we may not have it, cause
Right,
if she can't come, cause it's in person and it's at it's over at Corner of the Past. It's 10 AM on Friday, but, if Julie can't join us, then it's kind of
yeah,
it doesn't make any sense, so,
Okay.
Ben has a call into her right now and we're
Okay.
waiting to hear back. One way or the other, you have to talk to each other and say, look, this
Right.
is, what can we figure out here? So that's where that is.
thank you.
I'll make a motion that we accept the committee reports.
I have one question. This isn't actually, this was just sort of a follow-up. Were we to get the two, I think there were two proposals maybe for strategic,
Yes.
at this meeting and at this month's meeting, I thought?
Get it in there, so we'll probably do that on the July 11th meeting.
It'll be the July meeting.
Yeah, we're gonna have,
Okay.
well, we're gonna have a special meeting, effectively, that's item 10.
Mhm.
Over that there.
Okay, that was my only question. All right.
I'm sorry, before you vote, real quick, I just wanted to make sure people read in Ben's staff overview. They're at the July 13th finance meeting, Baird's gonna come in and do TID overviews,
Mhm.
which I think would be helpful for everybody to know if you're able to attend that meeting, even via Zoom, put it on the background or whatever it is.
TID 101 also.
Yeah,
So,
so helpful, just and out there.
So he's not gonna come to the board, right? Finance, just finance, but all the board members should.
Part of
attend.
finance.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
All right.
okay, so I made a motion, we accept committee reports.
Second,
Okay, motion by Bill, second by Kelly. Those in favor?
Bye.
Opposed, carried. Okay, so now for 10. We have a tour of wastewater facility. I would strongly, I think that I'm the only one who's actually taken a tour of the wastewater facility. Megan loves to show off that wastewater facility and she can
She's
explain.
on the phone, so now be nice.
Well, a day, I'm pretty sure that Megan would agree.
I'm
She
sure
enjoys
that Megan-
showing the wastewater facility. I don't think I'm
I'm
saying anything out of
looking forward to
turn there.
I
Okay,
really
so-
do.
Yeah, so there is that. That's the week of the 22nd. I think we're looking for some input from board members as to what could work.
The week of June 22nd, okay.
So the reason why we have it for June 22nd is that essentially, when speaking with Megan, it starts to get a little bit busier as we go past the July timeframe. So if there was, we could get together a day and having Megan on the phone, that we could put together a time. Typically, it's about an hour for the tour. And then if there's any questions, we can hang around after, but the intent would be to have enough time to put in, notice of quorum so that everyone present.
Is this something we can do like a first thing in the morning type thing or?
Morning's great for
Instead of
me.
like a
Yeah.
midday?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does not, whatever works with everyone's schedule and Megan's schedule.
What day of the week is that?
It's the week of the 22nd, so what week of the 22nd?
Next week.
It's next week, yeah.
Right, oh, I thought you said.
Okay, I'll just throw a date out there. I don't know what we're gonna, Monday, the 22nd at 9:30. I have physical therapy at 8:30, otherwise I'd say earlier. Anytime on the 24th, early, we have personnel on the morning of the 23rd. That's why that's bad. Monday morning or Wednesday morning, 22nd or 24th,
Monday.
anybody?
Monday,
Anybody?
I'm fairly open all week.
How about you?
My preference is just early,
Yeah, Terry, is that?
so it doesn't take it.
I am out of town starting the 18th
Oh, okay,
to basically the end of the month, so.
okay, you're out, all right.
If you want to schedule a separate tour.
Yeah.
that is-
I would love to see that.
It is really worth it.
Yeah,
So
I may not attend because I have seen it before, but it is. It was last year, I think it was last year or the year before.
I'd also like to see the Historical Society barn.
yeah, well, that's Thursday. Are you gonna go?
Thursday.
Yeah, we're leaving Thursday.
Oh, okay. So the 22nd, I just can't be there till 9:30 because I've gotta go.
Okay.
9:30 is up here for me.
The 24th, is that good for anybody? Morning? No, doesn't work. Okay.
Could we do 9:30 on Monday?
Is
Does that work for everybody else?
Yeah,
And like,
make it work, yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Steve, I really would appreciate if you made it there since you're on utilities.
I'm good.
Okay, all right, Megan, does that work for you? 9:30 on the 22nd?
Yep, that'll work for me.
Thank you, Megan. Okay, then we have the TID and the TID overview, which I want to have be a joint board finance meeting. I understand some people may not be able to make it. It was driven by the Baird availability, but also if it's at all possible to make that meeting, it's a good idea too, because that TID will have an impact on the village moving forward. Again, if you can't, I understand. And then we have our historical society possible quorum this Thursday. So is there anything that, any other items to be placed on a future agenda, referred to committee, official or employee? I'll start with
Yeah.
I was gonna say the getting that application out, or the interested residents.
Yeah, it would be, yeah, if we can get that all taken care of.
Okay. So there's that. Yes, Patrice?
Can we put on the agenda or refer to, I'm not sure which committee? Maybe about the alcohol problem, the littering problem.
Should it be picked up at parks?
Yeah,
again?
usually we can ask, as I said, for that particular day, on that day, because I did see Parks there, so I know Parks was involved, but, yeah, we could take it up with Parks.
It's a chronic issue.
Yeah, it depends on the weekend and how heavy it is, because when I go down, well, you're there, I mean, when you go down to Waterfront Park, but the guys on the weekends come through twice. You know,
It's gotten better since we have put out more receptacles.
yeah, but they come through twice, I see them in the golf carts or whatever, those little, just to try to. And we have, we have 2 bubblers down there, right? To refill water bottles, so we had hoped that would help.
The one, where's the other, the one by the marina, I know, but
There's one at Village Hall and there's one at, the restrooms.
okay.
Or right now, most of it's used by dogs.
It does have a proper place for dogs to
It's
go.
slower, but it's-
Yeah, I mean, things are not going to the
Right.
funeral. Okay. That was anything else that you and I talked about, that we just had the one.
Yes, that would be the only thing, and then just as part of the 13th meeting, it'd be included as the strategic plan. for-
Yeah, I'd like to review that strategic plan, but if we can.
Wait, July 13th?
That's
Oh, you're making that a joint
that's a
board
joint,
meeting?
yeah.
Okay, and that's the one
So it'll
today,
be-
Yes.
okay.
As part of that, discussion and then moving into, the other item.
And it also is gonna involve finance too, and it's spending money,
Oh, yeah,
so it doesn't seem,
no, it's fine,
would love to hear what Andy and Mike have to say about it.
yeah.
Okay, then the next regular meeting is July 21st, 6 p.m. right here. So, item 12, executive session, pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19851G, to confer with legal counsel or governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning a strategy to be adopted with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved. Fiber optic discussion. I'll make a motion, we adjourn to a executive session. Motion by Bell,
So moved.
second by Halson. Roll call.
Hardler, yes.
Taxi.
Housing, yes.
Bell, yes.
White, yes.
Kelly,
Shampoo, yes.
Okay,